me start at the end, because today is when it's covering the date.
Today is the
July the 17th,
18th.
which is slightly more than, well, today's Friday, so we're just a little over 6 weeks from a time that I sat in a chair in a courtroom in Detroit, Michigan, next to my attorney. A chair that I could never have imagined sitting in. Not the chair of the lead trial counsel, but the chair of the defendant, the criminal defendant, who had been the target of a all-encompassing and relentless, no-hold or expense-barred investigation that had gone on for almost 3 years, which involved not only myself, but my law partner, Ben Johnson, and every single attorney in my office.
How many?
I think at the time we had 16 attorneys. And every single person, support staff, who worked for me. And late or early afternoon, after we had waited nearly 3 days for a verdict, and as we were at lunch, where I was, at that point, I think I was probably certifiably insane, because the position of being a criminal defendant, let alone for me as an attorney, waiting for a verdict as an attorney is impossible. I can't stand it. I liken it to waiting to be shot.
Well, I've often said, God, just let me win this one and I won't ever do another one again.
I yelled my hand because I was insane for nearly 3 days, as I asked him nearly every 5 minutes, I'm not going to be convicted, am I, Gerry? I'm not going to be convicted, am I? They're not going to do this. Because my whole life, and as Gerry said, this was a death penalty case for me. It would have been the end of my life. It would have been the end of what I did for 30 years. It would have been the end of my law firm. It would have been the end of 60 people who worked for me, and the 200 people who depend upon them for support, and therefore me. It would have been the end of my family life as I knew it, because I would have been imprisoned in a cell attached to other cells that looked like that. I wouldn't even have been able to provide health insurance for my 3 children. And as I waited, the realization and the reality, the fear, but when the verdict was announced, and since that time, it's been worse in terms of my realization of what I really faced than when we were going through it. It must be something akin, I think somebody said this here, to being in combat, because I'm sure I suffer from a form of post-traumatic stress disorder, because I am more fearful now of what was done and what I faced and what the dangers were than I even was at that time. So let me start by saying something that I often say at the end. You know, as you know, all as attorneys, there once was an attorney by the name of Clarence Darrow. And He fancied himself as the Gerry Spence of his day. And